Shalom, everybody. So, what is the meaning of the parable of the fig tree? Before we start, would you consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell, and giving us a thumbs up? So, the parable of the fig tree. Of the many parables that Yeshua taught, the parable of the fig tree is very controversial. It is actually found in two of the Gospels, Matthew 24, 32 through 35, and I quote, "Now learn the parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. So you too, when you see all these things, recognize that he is near, right at the door. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away." And also we find it in Luke 21, 29 through 33. And I quote, "Then he told them a parable. Behold the fig tree and all the trees. As soon as they put forth leaves, you see it and know for yourselves that summer is now near. So you also, when you see these things happening, recognize that the kingdom of God is near. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away." As always, when we study the Gospels, it's very helpful to study them in what is known as a harmony, which is a parallel study of the same passage in each Gospel as represented. All four Gospels are telling the same story, slightly different audiences from different vantage points. So a harmony is a necessary approach. The parable of the fig tree is often seen as representing the rebirth of Israel in 1948 in connection with the time of the rapture and the second coming. Is that possible? Well, several things need to be considered. First, what did Yeshua mean by generation? If the fig tree represents the rebirth of Israel, then that would place the second coming in 1988, since a generation is 40 years, and that would also place the rapture in 1981. Unfortunately, the Bible is clear. In Matthew 24:36, no one knows the date or the hour of the rapture, so that wouldn't work. Additionally, 1988 has come and gone, and we're still here. Another challenge is what is meant by generation. People often assume that a generation is 40 years, but the Bible is not limiting a generation to 40 years. Look at Genesis 15, 13 through 16. God said to Abraham, "Know for certain that your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, where they will be enslaved and oppressed 400 years. But I will also judge the nation whom they will serve, and afterwards they will come out with many possessions. As for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You will be buried at a good old age. Then in the fourth generation they will return here, for the iniquity of the Amorite is not yet complete." So it's 100 years there. The term generation can mean 20, 40, 70, 80, or 100 years. It can also simply mean contemporaries, which I think in the context is what it means here. Another mistake is the assumption that the fig tree is a symbol of Israel and that the passage prophesies the reestablishment of Israel in 1948. The fig tree is being used as an illustration, not a symbol. Luke confirms that when we read in verse 29 of the Luke passage, "Behold the fig tree and the other trees." What are all the trees representing if the fig tree represents Israel? The tree usage is an illustration, not a symbol. When the fig tree and all other trees begin to blossom, summer is coming, because blossoming takes place in the spring. So since a blossoming fig tree means that summer is on its way, in the same way, when these events that Yeshua is speaking about are about to take place, then his return is near. That's what he meant in that passage. It is not the reestablishment of Israel in 1948, never mentioned in the passage in the context. Rather, the event that he was speaking of was the abomination of desolation, or in other words, the second half of the Great Tribulation, the second 3.5 years. So the generation that sees the abomination of desolation and survives it will still be present at the second coming. This is meant to be an encouragement for the Jewish people who will go through and survive the tribulation. That is, of course, 1/3 of all Jewish people alive at that time, unfortunately, as told in Zechariah 13, 8 and 9. So the fig tree is not a symbol of Israel and does not speak of the rebirth of Israel, but is used as an illustration drawing a parallel between spring blossom announcing upcoming summer and abomination of desolation, or the second half of the Great Tribulation, announcing the second coming of Yeshua the Messiah to the generation of Jews going through the tribulation and surviving it at that time. I hope this helps. Shalom and be blessed.